Ready for the big reveal?
Ready for the big reveal. Oh, wow. No.
Okay, so these are some of the inspiration pictures that we're using to follow for this job. So we've basically got in the house right now a wall similar to this, but it doesn't have any of the trim work. And we have two openings on each side of the fireplace, except there's not a wall on the right side. Now what we are going to follow is we're going to build up these, I guess, lion's feet. And then we're also going to be adding trim all the way up here to 20-something foot high ceiling. And then also we are going to be adding in, so here's another inspiration. We're also going to be adding in two built-ins on each side, very similar to that design. And then we're going to build up these lion's feet right here. I'm not doing any stonework. It's going to be left drywall. Stonework may be added at another time. And we're also going to be building a mantle going all the way across out of white oak. And then here is another final close-up image of what we're going for. And this is exactly what we're looking at. So we're going to be doing two sides with cabinet doors right here with multiple shelves, and then some bigger openings on the right with drawers on each side. So that is where we're at, and that's where we're going. Okay, so far we've got our base cabinets here. I've got all of the adjustable shelving pinholes pre-drilled, and I've also got edge banding along all of the edges here. This edge banding is going to be painted the same color as the rest of the cabinets, while the inside of the cabinets will remain as a pre-finished plywood. Okay, so these are the shelves that are going to be in the upper cabinets, and if you notice, the plywood is actually longer than the hardwood that is glued to the front edge of it. And the reason why is that is going to account for the dados that are in the sides of the cabinets. And now that I've got everything sanded and prepped, it's time to get everything ready for painting. Now I actually prefer to paint everything before I assemble it. A few reasons for that is that sometimes when I try to paint a cabinet that is fully assembled, there are certain areas that are harder to reach than others. And so if I lay everything flat ahead of time, I can ensure that I have an even coating across every piece of the material. And then I can come back and assemble everything while everything is perfectly finished. was a dirty trick. I couldn't help myself. Okay, so I've got the toe kick assembled here, and now I'm marking it out so I can domino the toe kick rails that are going to go across, as well as domino all the mortises for the side stiles. And so now with those mortises cut, it's time to mill all of my hardwood for face frame parts as well as cabinet door parts. Ever since I started my business, I've always taken it upon myself to try and learn something new with every project, or at least try doing the same thing but in a different way. In this case, I'm trying that with the way that I make doors. I have recently watched some videos by Northeast Woodworks, and he makes his doors similar to this in that he oversizes his doors and he uses spacers to ensure that the doors are square from the inside and then cuts them to their final dimensions afterwards. After trying this method, I found it really helpful because I found myself constantly fighting with the material as I was gluing it together because I had already cut all of the pieces to their final dimensions. And so I was trying to flush everything up at the end, and then I end up having to sand it down, which takes it out of square. So this really ensured that I didn't run into that problem anymore. But the downside of trying something new is sometimes it gets in the way of remembering the more important details, namely the size of your doors. So in this case, I ended up oversizing the doors by about 3 inches or so. Just a wild overcalculation. Somehow I missed it. But anyways, I learned something new and was able to replace the doors and finish them to the right size. Now, drawers are very easy to put together, especially if you're using pocket screws, but one of the ways that I like to elevate my drawers just a little bit is by utilizing the domino. So you'll see how I'm about to do that here. Okay, so now we are working on the drawers, and I've got all of my panels cut and edge banded, ready to go. And so now we're working on the joinery. Now for the joinery of putting these drawer boxes together, I am using the Festival Domino, which is a lot of fun to use. It makes drawer building a pleasure. So basically the way it works is there will be a mortise on the side of the box. This is the part that goes in and out like that. And then on the front, there'll be a mortise in on the inside right there. So you will actually see the exposed domino plunging all the way through. And so they're essentially being held together by the dominoes right here. And you will see this flush cut at the very top, which acts really as kind of like an accent to your drawers, which you don't have to have, but it's a nice little touch and it's a lot of fun. Now, the way to do this, here is something that's critically important, is when you set up your piece to mortise out on the ends part, especially since you're using plywood. Plywood is notorious for chipping out, so you want to make sure you put a sacrificial block on the very back, just like this, and that when you plunge through, the block basically protects the edge from blowing out and chipping on the edges right there. So that is definitely a good little pointer. And another important detail that really helps speed things up with layout is only mark your center points. And then you don't need to mark your left and the right because you can use this little feature on the side right there. That little guy, you can use that as a stopping point along the end of each side. So when I set this on top here, I can use that little ledge right there, bring the domino up on here, slide it over, and that's my stop, plunge away. Same thing, bring it over here, slide it over, that's my stop, plunge away. So let's see if I can show you right here. So there's the little nub right there, whatever it's called. I'm calling it a nub for now. And then you can slide it right over, just like that. And that gives you a perfect reference for every time you plunge. last thing we got to do in the shop is replace this mantle with a new one. Now, I've seen mantles built a few different ways before, but I always end up coming back to the way that I do it, and that is building it with a full miter in every single corner and seam. When this is done right, the finish will be a super clean and crisp finish that will be extremely satisfying to look at. However simple it is to build this style mantle, it is also easy to mess it up. So it's super important to make sure that all of your parts are laid out and you have a clear vision of making sure that each part is the exact width and length before gluing it together. And using tape is a simple but tried and true method for gluing these together, and it allows for a lot of flexibility even when you are flipping it over, and you are very careful, just like I am, making sure that your parts stay together. The inside of the mantle will never be seen, so using a liberal amount of glue and smearing it with a glove is really helpful in ensuring a nice strong joint. And the end panels sometimes have a little bit less flexibility compared to the rest of the longer side of the mantle, so a little bit of extra tape and sometimes even a few extra clamps will help ensure that those gaps get fully closed, and that way you have a fully seamless mantle from one end to the other. Okay, so let's take a look at where we are at so far. We've got the toe kick in, we have the toe kick face frame rail down at the bottom installed. We have both left and right cabinets in, and then we also have our filler going in between here. This is serving as a couple of different functions. First of all, it is separating the two cabinets, and what it's going to do is, because I'm going to be adding a style here and a style there, this is going to separate the cabinet doors and basically be a style here in between them, and it sort of eliminates the look of when you clamp two cabinets together where you can see that seam and that line. This totally takes that away because the cabinet door is going to butt up right up against this piece here, and it's going to basically look like the doors are inset even though they are overlaying the frameless portions of the cabinet. Now, since the last time I did a cabinet video similar to this one, I got a lot of comments and actually some really helpful suggestions. One of those being that I make my fillers to be 7/8 inch thick as opposed to 3/4 of an inch thick. That way it has a better chance of flushing up against the cabinet door, because if that cabinet door is butted up against the frame, there's a good chance that it is going to be squeaky and too tight up against it. So it needs just a little bit of space. So by giving that extra 7/8, that'll allow me the space for the doors to be flush with the style. as opposed to not being flush and being a little bit too proud of the style. So by adding that, that helps out quite a bit. Okay, from the end wall right here to here, we're at 62 inches. And then we're going to be adding a side panel here that's going to cover up right here. That's a 3/4 inch panel. So add 3/4. And then we want to do a 3/4 inch overhang. So that means a final dimension length of 63.5 inches from there to there. It just so checks out that from this side to that side, it is the same measurement, 62. So we're going to do 62 or 63.5 from side to side right here, still using the template. And then from the back wall to the front, we have 17 3/8. We're going to add 7/8 to that to account for the cabinet doors plus the trim. And then we're going to do the 3/4 inch overhang. So with all that, that comes to 19 inches in the front. So now it's time to go cut the countertop to these dimensions. Now, installing frameless hinges can be a little bit of a headache if you are not sure where to place the hinge plates. So this little jig is helpful for that. So here we go. The first thing you got to do is you've got to measure the distance from the center of the hinge plates while they're installed on the cabinet doors. And then that measurement comes out to 20.5. And then you need to measure the height of the opening of the cabinet door, and that is 26 3/8. Subtract 20.5 from 26 3/8. Then divide that by 2, and that tells you the center point of where that hinge plate needs to go. If you didn't catch that, back up, pause, and watch it over again until it makes sense, and it should make sense. Otherwise, reach out in the comments, and I'll see if I can explain it a little bit better. But in the meantime, let's just take a second to enjoy my royal failure. Ready for the big reveal?
Ready for the big reveal. Oh, wow. No. You cut the wrong one, huh?
I think I just oversized it a little bit.
A little bit, huh?
Yeah, maybe like a 1/4 inch. Yeah, boy. That's okay, right? Like, you can live with that?
We should ask Jen.
Yeah.
Hey, Jen!
Right.
See, I
Ready?
don't know if you're okay with these doors. All right. I'm okay with it. I mean,
Oh boy.
what do you...
Oops. So I have one upstairs doing that because the hinge is loose.
I think that's fine.
Well, you know,
No big deal.
it's unique. It's
It's
unique.
okay, nothing's perfect. You gotta just...
See, look, man.
As frustrating as it was to make that mistake, sometimes you just gotta accept it and laugh at it and then move on. So from here, we can finish installing our drawer fronts, and then we can move on to the mantle. Earlier in the video, I did mention that we had plans to put some trim up on the wall above the mantle, as well as some trim below the mantle. The clients decided for now they want to wait. We may add that later on as a detail, but for now they want to enjoy the bookcases and the cabinets as is, because they really did like them and they love the way that it transformed the space. You can find a lot of the tools and gear that I use in this video, as well as other videos, in the links of my descriptions, as well as some discount codes and affiliate links and all that good stuff. So please go ahead and check some of those out. They really do help me out a lot, and I really do appreciate that. Also, don't be a stranger. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, reach out with any questions or thoughts or considerations, as well as in the comments. And also don't forget to subscribe, as I will have a bunch more videos coming out, some different ones as well. I also have some really exciting news that I'm excited to share with you, but you're just going to have to wait and see what that will be. For now, go ahead and just enjoy these final glamour shots. And one last note is that there was a painter who did come in after I had finished this job to paint the upper wall, as well as all the portions that ended up being caulked in to finally finish everything out. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.